Hi everyone, so this week we are looking at vertical integration, which is one of the corporate level strategies that we will be looking at over the next couple of weeks. So we have several corporate level strategies, but we're starting off with vertical integration. Now let us look at what corporate level strategy is as opposed to business level strategy. So in the last unit, we looked at business level strategy, and it is a firm's theory of how to gain competitive advantage in a single business or industry. We looked at the two main generic strategies, which are cost leadership and product differentiation. Corporate strategy, on the other hand, is a firm's theory of how to gain competitive advantage by operating in several businesses simultaneously. So what is vertical integration now? Vertical integration is a strategy used by a company to gain control over its suppliers or distributors in order to increase the firm's power in the marketplace, reduce transaction costs, and secure supplies or distribution channels. Now we will see on the right hand side that there is a diagram with a value chain. Now we all know what the value chain is. The value chain is everything that happens from the raw materials to the end product. So the vertical integration now is when you are along the value chain, you decide that okay, you are going to purchase or start a new firm that offers the same thing, and then you offer that business to your own company. So just a reminder that a value chain is a set of activities that must be accomplished to bring a product or a service from raw materials to the point that it can be sold to a customer. We also have a concept called horizontal integration. Now, horizontal integration is when a firm acquires or merges with a competitor in the same industry. So, for example, a company competing in raw materials industry and buys another company in the same industry rather than try to expand to intermediate goods industry, because if they expanded into the actual goods, then that would be vertical integration. But when they buy another firm that does the same exact thing that they do, then it is horizontal integration. So we have two types of integration. We have backward and forward, or some text or video you watch call it upstream or downstream. But the correct words are backward and forward integration. So backward vertical integration is when the firm incorporates more stages of the value chain within its boundaries, and those stages bring it closer to the beginning of the value chain. Now the beginning of the value chain is the raw materials. So if firm A is a manufacturer of kitchenware, for instance, if they decide that they are going to have a plant or something that they produce aluminum and that kind of thing that make pots, then they would be backward integrating. Forward integration now is when it incorporates more stages of the value chain within its boundaries, and those stages bring it closer to the end of the value chain. So on this side now, so they make kitchenware, potware, that kind of thing, and they decide that okay, we are going to distribute it ourselves. We're going to set up a store and sell it. So that is forward integration, and it works for any kind of business. I just use the makers of kitchenware for as an example. We're going to look at a more detailed example of what vertical integration is, so that we can have a clearer understanding of the concept. So this example is about pizza and where the different ingredients from the pizza fall along the value chain. So the first company that we're looking at now is Leprina Foods. All they make is mozzarella cheese. And mozzarella cheese is that stringy cheese that they use when they make pizza. So Mozzarella Foods, all they do is make mozzarella cheese. Leprina Foods, all they do is make mozzarella cheese. Now they get their supplies from dairy farmers that curd the milk and send it to them for them to make the cheese from it. Now the dairy farmers get their supplies from a crop farmer that farms alfalfa and corn, because then the the cows have to be fed. So we're going backward along the value chain. Now the crop farmers have to get their supplies or the raw materials from seed companies. So sometimes you go into the farm store or a super center and you see where they're selling, or Evergrow, and you see where they sell the seeds that you can plant to grow vegetables, etc. So the seed company would make that thing, and then they would sell it to the crop farmers who actually plant the actual plant, the corn and the alfalfa, and then they sell it to the dairy farmers that actually have the cows that produce the milk. Then they sell the milk or the curd milk to Leprino Foods that makes mozzarella cheese. So we're along the value chain here. Then Leprino Foods sells their cheeses to food distributors. The food distributors then sell it to pizza chain, and then the pizza chain produces the pizza and sells to the end consumer. And this is a full value chain of, I don't want to say full value chain, but not of a particular company, but how the end product of the pizza. So backward, as I was explaining before, if you're going backward to the dairy farmers, the crop farmers, the seed companies, that is the backward vertical integration. If Leprino Foods decide to go to become a food distributor or deliver to the pizza chain or deliver to the end customer, then that is forward vertical integration. Alright, so I think that was a good example of how the value chain operates and how a company can vertically integrate, whether backward or forward. The value of vertical integration now. So the question of vertical integration: which stages of the value chain should be included within a firm's boundaries and why? So the firm now has to decide, why would I backward integrate or why would I forward integrate? So two issues have to be considered before integration. First one is cost. An organization should vertically integrate when cost of making the product inside the company are lower than the cost of buying that product in the market. So a company will definitely do their due diligence, have their accounting done, their projections, do up a proper business plan and say, how much is it going to cost us to set up such a company and run the company? Is it going to be more expensive than if we are buying from a supplier? And if it is more expensive, then the company would not be inclined to vertically integrate. But if it is less expensive to run their own company, to supply their own raw material, or to distribute their products, if you're going forward, then they may decide that, okay, we will vertically integrate. The other issue to be considered is the scope of the firm. A firm should consider whether moving into new industries would not dilute its current competencies. New activities in a company are also harder to manage and control. So remember when we looked at resources and capabilities and core competencies, etc., then we looked at just how a firm is able to carry out a particular task, produce a particular product, develop their own brand name and that kind of thing, come up with new ideas and research and development. So is the firm able to do all of those things for a new firm? And that is what the scope really is. And they would have to think about whether or not they are able to do so to make a final decision on whether or not they should vertically integrate. So the decision as to whether or not a firm vertically integrate is about whether or not they can create value chain economies by either backward vertically integrating or forward vertically integrating. And to do so now, the firm will have to be able to create synergies with other firms within their borders. So their own set of firms through cost reduction and through revenue enhancement. And also the firm would have to be able to capture above average returns. And those are the reasons why the firm would decide that, okay, we'll vertically integrate because we can reduce cost, we can earn more money, we can basically always have above average returns. Alright, so let us look now at when to backward vertically integrate. We do vertical integration backward when the firm's current suppliers are unreliable, expensive, or cannot supply the required inputs. Because that would mean that their suppliers are holding up their business in terms of if they're unreliable, they're probably delivering late. Also, if they're too expensive, and then if you are going to buy from those suppliers, it means that you are going to have to put up your cost, and then maybe the customer will reject it. So also, it can occur that a supplier may run out of even the raw material that you need, so they're not giving you the required inputs to put into your production process. Another one is that if there are only a few small suppliers but many competitors in the industry, company may decide to bring that particular activity within their borders. Also, if the industry is expanding rapidly and if the prices of inputs are unstable. Also, suppliers earn high profit margins, means that the supplier that is supplying them the raw material is earning such a high margin that the firm figure that if they should backward vertically integrate, then they could be earning or saving that money that they are spending on their suppliers. Also, a company has necessary resources and capabilities to manage the new business. So the company has the scope. They have all the capabilities that they need, all the resources that they need, so they will not be in a disadvantaged position if they decide to vertically integrate backward. When to integrate forward? You integrate forward when few quality distributors are available in the industry, when distributors or retailers have high profit margins, if distributors are very expensive, unreliable, or unable to meet the firm's distribution needs. Also, if the industry is expected to grow significantly, as well as there are benefits of stable production and distribution, and the company has enough resources and capabilities to manage the new business. So now let us look at some advantages of vertical integration. Some advantages are lower cost due to eliminated market transaction costs. You may have improved quality of supplies. Critical resources can be acquired through vertical integration. Improved coordination in the supply chain, because then it is moving from company A to company B, which the same holding company owns. They would have greater market share because companies integrate to have more market power. Then they would have secured distribution channel, and also it facilitates investment in specialized area like the site and physical assets and human assets. And also vertically integrating helps the firm to develop new competencies. There are also some disadvantages of vertical integration. One is that the higher cost will be incurred if the company is incapable of managing the new activities efficiently. The ownership of supply and distribution channels may lead to lower quality products and reduced efficiency because of the lack of competition. Also, increased bureaucracy and higher investments lead to reduced flexibility. Higher potential for legal repercussions due to size, so an organization may become a monopoly. And then the new competencies may clash with old ones and lead to competitive disadvantage. We are going to look now at vertical integration as it relates to valuable, rare, inimitable, and organized. So in previous units, we looked at competencies. I think in the last unit we spoke about valuable, rare, inimitable, and costly to imitate. So we are replacing the costly to imitate with organized. So I want you to make note of that. So if a vertical integration strategy meets the VRIO criteria, it may create competitive advantage, or is more likely to create competitive advantage. So we're going to look at them individually now, the V, the RI, and the O. So vertical integration and the threat of opportunism. We're talking about valuable now. So for another couple of slides, we'll be talking about valuable. So valuable focuses on using vertical integration to reduce the threat of opportunism. Opportunism exists, when a firm is unfairly exploited in an exchange. For example, the supplier is supplying you with low quality goods. They are delivering the products late. They are demanding a higher price than what you agreed in the first place. So they are being opportunistic because they probably know that they don't have any other suppliers for the product. You really need their raw material, and they are probably maybe cheaper than another supplier, so they take you for granted, so to speak. A firm would vertically integrate if the cost of vertical integration is less than the cost of opportunism. So yes, a firm may be facing opportunism, but at the same time, it's still costing them less money than if they were supposed to set up a firm to either do their distribution or supply them with some raw materials. It is still cheaper, so they decide that, okay, we just go ahead with it. Even though we know that this opportunism is happening, we'll go ahead with it rather than to vertically integrate, or vice versa. The firm's capabilities as it relates to vertical integration now. So firms should vertically integrate into these business activities as they possess valuable, rare, and costly to imitate resources and capabilities. If not, they don't integrate. Example when not to integrate. Firms that produce goods for Walmart could sell directly to customers, but because Walmart resources and capabilities are so extensive and costly to imitate, it would be a loss for the suppliers. But the suppliers don't have the resources and capabilities that Walmart have, so they have to just keep supplying to Walmart as opposed to setting up their own storefront. Suppliers also usually make transaction-specific investments based on a specific relationship or agreement with the firm they supply. So for example, production facility set up specifically to produce a product for a firm and cannot be used or transferred to another product or another firm. So whatever arrangement the supplier have with a particular company, they went out and they bought new equipment and they get new staff, and they've made all of that investment just for this actual contract that they have. And that is what the specific transaction-specific investment is. And usually that investment cannot be easily transferred. So it means that if at the end of the contract period or something happens, then the supplying firm will be at a disadvantage as it relates to this transaction-specific investment. Alright, so we're looking now at flexibility. So flexibility refers to how costly it is for a firm to alter its strategic and organizational decisions. Flexibility is high when the cost of changing strategic choices is low. Flexibility is low when the cost of changing strategic choices is high. Vertically integrating is less flexible than not vertically integrating. So let us look at what that means. So a vertically integrated firm decides to get out of a particular business. The firm will have to sell or close its factories, alter its supply relationships, hurt customers that have come to rely on it as a partner, and change its internal reporting structure. In contrast, if a non-vertically integrated firm decides to get out of a business, it simply stops. It cancels whatever contract it had in place and ceases operations. The cost of exiting a non-vertically integrated business is generally lower than the cost of exiting a vertically integrated business. So we have moved on from valuable, and now we are going to talk about rare and inimitable. A firm's vertical integration strategy is rare when few competing firms are able to create value by vertically integrating in the same way. Only a small number of competing firms is able to vertically integrate efficiently. Rare, we spoke about transaction-specific investment previously, but a rare transaction-specific investment would be an example of Dell, that they bought back their technical call center for the business customers from India and re-vertically integrated it into its business function. It is much more difficult to provide call center employees with the training they need to address their corporate problems. So that is a rare transaction-specific investment, because they would have had agreements with whatever firm in India they decided to use for their call center. However, the business customers were not, I guess, not satisfied with what was happening, so they had to reintegrate. So they had to do a special or a rare transaction specific investment for that. Vertical integration and sustained competitive advantage. Rare capabilities. So if capabilities are valuable and rare, then vertically integrating into business that exploit these capabilities can enable a firm to gain at least a temporary competitive advantage. Then we have to talk now about rare uncertainty. A firm may be able to gain an advantage from vertically integrating when it resolves some uncertainty it faces sooner than its competition. So for example, a firm would not vertically integrate into the manufacturing of a particular technology until its designs and features are stabilized in the market and demand for the technology is well established. Then we have rare vertical disintegration. This speaks to when firms can also gain competitive advantages through their decisions to vertically disintegrate. That is, through the decision to outsource an activity that used to be within the boundaries of the firm. So the firm used to do their own distribution, for instance, and they decide that, okay, we are going to shut down that section of the business, and then we are that particular company, and then we are going to just outsource our distribution function. Alright, so the imitability of vertical integration now. So in the graphic today, right, we see that as we go upstream, it is more vertical integration. As we go downstream, it's less vertical integration. And that is speaking to what the company is doing. So if the company is doing joint ventures, they're more integrated into a firm. If they're doing long-term contracts in terms of licensing and franchising, then it is more integration. Short-term contracts now would be less integration, and then market transactions. Other arrangements like alliances that we will look at in a further topic, that is less integration. So direct duplication occurs when competitors develop or obtain the resources and capabilities that enable another firm to implement a valuable and rare vertical integration strategy. Substitutes for vertical integration would be like strategic alliance, which we will do in Unit 8. So the imitability of vertical integration is really dependent on whether another firm can develop the same resources and capabilities that would enable them to implement a valuable and rare vertical integration strategy, just like your firm is doing. And finally, the last part now is about organizing. So we're organizing to implement vertical integration. So organizing to implement vertical integration involves the same organizing tools as implementing any business or corporate strategy in terms of their organizational structure, the management controls, and compensation. So earlier when I was talking about the scope of the firm, then it has to do a lot with the organizational structure, the management controls, compensation policies, and all of those things. Now we will look at those things in Unit 10 when we do strategic leadership, and Unit 11 when we look at organizational structure and control. Alright, so as for the other units, you will download your tutorial sheet, read the chapter that is on the Moodle page, because this chapter is not in the same textbook as we have been using, but this particular chapter is on the Moodle page, and then you complete your tutorial sheets and you come to class ready to participate. Thank you.